right, welcome back to the Pick Your Brain podcast with Johaz and WeekendGabe holding you down. Don't forget to give us a follow on these social medias at Pick Your P on Twitter and also on YouTube as well. We just posted the latest episode with Blue in Exile where we talked about the Below the Heavens album, which was so dope. We just posted it this week where Blue was talking about running into Suge Knight, which was a fantastic story. Spitting like half a dozen bloods. It was just a fantastic story, and also excited to their album. So, Johaz, how are you, man?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm good. Smoking this gas, ready to talk some West Coast shit with my brother,
There you go. Our guest this week is none other than an incredible historian of hip hop, a deep researcher. He's every and anywhere. And he's also a great follow on Twitter at Dart Adams. It is a pleasure to introduce Dart Adams to the Pick Your Brain podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm having a fairly good weekend, waiting for the stimulus to hit, man. Just like everybody else.
Your Biden bucks haven't landed yet?
I heard it. Yeah. I heard it hit on a lot.
For some people,
yes. Yeah, a lot of people are just like, yeah, my stimmy just hit. And I'm just like, I keep going to my app, my Bank of America app, like, okay, maybe tomorrow, I guess. Yeah.
I keep pushing refresh like a motherfucker. Refresh.
I had a homie hit me up. He's like, yo, you get your stim yet? And I was like, nope, still poor. Not yet. Nope.
Stimmy's gonna be lit though if you got a dependent.
Oh yeah, we fall into that bracket of four, family of four.
Okay.
This summer and this fall will be amazing.
So it goes up.
Well, you get a tax credit for children, so it's $300 for children 6 and under, and $250 for children 12 and under, so $550. So we fall into that bracket. So the government's going to issue out the direct deposits, I think, starting in July through December. So it's $550 every month. That we'll be getting, on top of the direct payments for two adults and also 2 children. So it comes out to about $8,500, I believe. So don't come looking for money for me because it's already spent.
Yeah.
But it's good for the country. Glad everyone be all right.
Man, a good boost.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Dart, man, thank you again for joining us. As you probably are aware, the platform is West Coast, but you, sir, are a hometown hero in Boston, Massachusetts. But you know everything and anything. I know you're probably gonna be modest about that, but we wanted to kind of just do a little conversation and talk about that. I wanted to talk a little bit about. I wanted to go into film a little bit, and we're kind of talking off air before jumping in, and you were talking to your best damn writing book. There's a piece about hip hop and film, and so this past week marked the 30th anniversary of New Jack City, right? But then coming up this summer is going to be the 30th anniversary of Boyz N The Hood. Both were influential Black films made by Black directors, starring Black cast, and also including hip hop music into the background and also on the forefront as far as the soundtrack goes. So, and I know you were mentioning like there in the book you mentioned kind of like there's not really like an almost famous kind of hip hop movie that really stirs the pot. And these type of films aren't exactly that film either, but they're hip hop based and they have an inclusion. Well, where do we go with like Boyz N The Hood and New Jack City? How did those films like help shape the growing popularity of hip hop during the early 90s? Because it really set shit off for hip hop to jump over country as the number one selling genre. But let's talk about that for a moment, like the influence of those films.
All right, so as we all know, back in 1984 is when we get the first like hip hop movies. We get Breakin, Beat Street, Breakin 2, horrible shit like Body Rocked, and we get like rapping. We get rapping, which was god awful, in '85. But then we jumped to 1990, and what changed everything was a little movie by New Line Cinema called House Party.
That's right.
Talking shit already. Let's go.
And when House Party comes out, it was already supposed to be a different movie, and it was supposed to come out like they've been working on it for like a year, right? It was supposed to star ultimately first supposed to star Groovy Chill. They end up as supporting actors in it, and they wanted to cast I believe they wanted to cast Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince. They turned it down, so they gave the movie to Kid and Play. And then that movie surprisingly blew up. Where they fucked up with that movie was they didn't promote the soundtrack right? But several songs from the soundtrack became hits. But what did blow up was the album Funhouse by Kid and Play. So after that happened, all these other movies were like, yo, so we got this film, and people were greenlighting everything because of the success of House Party. What happened next was New Jack City comes out. New Jack City took the surprise success of House Party and jumped it up, because what they did was they actually promoted the soundtrack. So the soundtrack goes platinum and crosses over with a song called I Want to Sex You Up by Color Me Bad. And then the next song, Don't Wake Me Up.
Hold on. I forgot fucking I Want to Sex You Up was on New Jack City. That's crazy.
Yes. Oh yeah, that's in the film. Yeah, that's heavy in the film. Yeah.
But what changes everything is the song by Ice-T, New Jack Hustler. Why? Because the song off that soundtrack doubles as the lead single for his upcoming album, OG Original Gangster, which is also crazy because what Ice-T does, he's a pioneer in so many different ways. For one thing, he starts his career at fucking age 29, I think, or something. Yeah. Fresh out the army. His first album comes out 87 to age 29. He doesn't tell anybody at a time where rappers over 30 supposed to retire. What he does is he then puts out his VHS tape, OG Original Gangster, with videos for every song on the album, right? But House Party, it opens the way for New Jack City to blow up and cross over as a surprise hit movie. And after that movie does well, the black movie renaissance, as we call it, happens. And a big part of that was John Singleton's Boyz N The Hood. John Singleton was the youngest director, black director, to have a film of that stature blow up in a major film studio and encompass so many things about hip hop, rap, and especially the West Coast experience, right? And that kind of kicked it off for what we now term the Hood films era. We don't get Menace to Society without Boyz N The Hood. I think Boyz N The Hood was named after a fucking NWA 12-inch that dropped in 1987 on Macola. Ruthless, right? Think about that shit. And it becomes the name of a movie 4 years later. And everybody, white people, know Boyz N The Hood when they see it. They even know how to misspell it properly. That gives you an idea of the reach of it, right? So that movie started everything, right? As far as, but what it also did was when you open up that fucking can of worms or that Pandora's box, it's hard to get it closed. Because it's hard to get people to think of things in another way. And why I'm saying all this is because Boyz N The Hood and the Hood film genre was part of the reason why it was so hard and so important for the Good Life Cafe to be open. Because people had an idea of what West Coast rap was. But they were like, no, you can't fucking box us in. We encompass everything. And West Coast hip hop, especially in the early 80s, was so influential that it pushed the people on the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Boston, Philly, everywhere, to up their fucking game, because we had the Lyricist Lounge at the same time. They had the they had the cafe, the Good Life Cafe, and then later Project Blowed and everything else. So from there, everything happened. I'm talking like 90, 91. Everything happens from there, man.
Let's rewind a little bit, man. Like you just talked about the Good Life Cafe, Project Blow. What was your first? What was like the first record you heard from their crew, from the whole genre, Project Blow, Good Life? What was the first record you heard?
Okay, so preface this with being in Boston is beautiful for one reason. It's a city with the highest concentrations of colleges and universities, if not in the United States, probably globally. The city is so small you can fit the entire fucking city in the borough of Brooklyn. This is fact, right? But it's densely populated and everything's near everything. So like quite literally where I live, I can walk 10, 15 minutes and pass 12 different college or university campuses. Now, what that means is that people from all over come to Boston. And what that means is that it's just like when the drug era happened, the crack era happened, cats from Boston would go all over the place and come back with tapes. They come back with tapes. That was their thing. I come back with tapes. So we would hear music from all over. But when you in the college environment and neighborhood, I'm from South End Lower Roxbury, which is home to like 10, 12 different colleges and universities, schools of higher learning. Everybody comes and they have to interact with everybody, and they bring with them all the shit from where they're from. And back in the days, you know, Walkmans, you're gonna hear what's playing out somebody's Walkman's headphones. So this is how Boston got San Quinn. This is how Boston got X-Rated. This is how Boston got Dre Dog. This is how Boston got C-Bo. This is how Boston got, you know, Mr. Lunatic. This is how we got all this West Coast rap that like was under the radar, underground, and like nobody else really knew about unless you read the source and saw the ads in Rainbow Records or something. Right? But what it also meant is that cats who were from that type of background, who hung out in South End, Lower Roxbury, you know, Dorchester, Jamaica Plain, would be playing this music in the headphones like, yo, what the fuck is that? Like, what? This is how I first heard Seventh Son. Somebody was like, yo, there's this group called, you know, Freestyle Fellowship, and they just put out this project, To Whom It May Concern. I'm like, it has to be independent. Also, the West Coast taught everybody, especially the Bay Area, how to sell rap independently. They taught everybody, right? So I'm listening to this song, the seventh seal. And I'm like, what the fuck am I listening to? What am I listening to? It's like somebody cut my brain open and just took my brain out and just like put extra wrinkles in it and then put it back and sewed my head up. That song also, I believe the B-side Burnt, Del Funky Homo Sapien with Hyro. And it was like some members of Souls of Mischief too. That shit was like, wait, what's happening? What's going on? Like, what am I hearing right now? But those two songs were a wave of like, you know, independent joints that you would hear on college radio, and also Boston has mad college radio stations. We had WERS, Emerson College. We have WRBB from Northeastern University. We have WHRB. We have Harvard's radio station. Then you have MIT's radio station. So these cats would come from all over the country and bring the music from where they were from with them. And a lot of times they were from California. So occasionally you would be on college radio and you would just hear this joint like, yo, what the fuck is this? Then on top of that, Boston, like a lot of people don't know this, but like Thrasher magazine had several people from Boston, the East Coast, move there and work there and operate there. And so
there was shit. People don't know about Thrasher magazine, dog. That shit was crazy out here. I don't know about y'all, but for us, Thrasher magazine was like from 80s to early 90s was like the premier skating magazine, G. You know what I mean?
So there was this cross-pollination from cats from the West Coast that would come to Boston and then back and forth. And what happened is a lot of the skater kids would put us onto underground West Coast tapes that you can only get through back then, hip-hop mail order, or you had to buy it in the West Coast and bring it home with you. So we were listening to all these tapes and we were like, yo, what the fuck is this song? And it goes back to the days of the Rhodium Swap Meet. This also happened in the 80s with the Rhodium Swap Meet, where tapes would end up in Boston. And, you know, Dr. Dre was responsible for a lot of them tapes and a bunch of other people. And we would just be like, what the fuck song is this? What song is this? You look at the thing and you're like, you can't even find this song on this in the East Coast.
Yeah, they would make it
like you would have to try to
for them. Yeah,
you have to try to order it.
Yeah. To get those Rhodium mixtapes, man, that shit was hard. I didn't even get them. You know what I mean? So for y'all to get them, that's crazy, man. That's crazy.
So yeah, man, there were a whole bunch of like early 90s songs. And then what happened is, as you well know, thanks to The Good Life and Project Blowed, a lot of these underground acts started getting signed to majors. And then they started putting out singles and getting their videos on Rap City. And from 90 to 93, it was a rap from there. And basically what happened was it was like this arms race between the East Coast and the West Coast to try to make the most insane underground rap. But the difference is what underground rap at the time was, underground rap was getting signed to major labels.
Crazy. That was like, remember, because it was a run. It was like, all right, DOS Effects, then you bring out Lords of the Underground, then Rumpelstiltskins, then what was the mother niggas? Valley of the Skins. I forgot. You know what I'm saying?
There were Prince
They
Culture.
Ooh,
Prince
yeah,
culture.
man. That, you know what I'm saying? All those groups was getting deals, right? Am I right or wrong?
Yeah.
They was all getting deals, G, with like an underground look. It's something else too. From Boston, what? Yo, I always had a question, and I might be wrong. Was Double X Nine Posse from Boston or no?
Double X Posse is from New Jersey.
Okay. Now I thought they was from Boston. They kind of looked like RSO a little bit, right? Like they had the same vibe a little, right?
Yeah. They got signed to what was the name of the label? It was one of the Atlantic deals. But they were signed. Double X Posse was signed. It was Reef, Stretch Armstrong. All those guys were like at the label. They almost signed Nas too.
Ooh,
They almost signed Nas. But the story is that as we all know, the search was just like nope, and took them and brought them directly to meet Faith, who was at Faith was at Columbia because she had left Def Jam. Faith Newman. So that's how the story goes. But it turns out that Stretch, Reef, Rob Tulo, Reef, who actually used to work at the Source, they were about to sign Nas. And why can't I remember what the name of the label was?
Was it Big Beat?
Big Beat Atlantic. Big Beat Atlantic.
Ooh, okay, Big Beat. Okay.
That's wild. Have you guys been watching the Hip Hop Uncovered on Hulu? I know you've seen it. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
There's a point in there, and I think it was when they were starting to shift to Big U, and they were talking about like NWA's influence, especially with Fuck the Police, and how that just resonated across the country in all different parts of the land, where people were like, yo, we could do that. Take us to that moment, because like when that opened the door, pried the door open to sort of that free will way of thinking and unlocking the ability to say what you wanted to say. How did that, like them doing that, kind of change the landscape of what people would then end up doing later and be more blunt or more direct about their feelings about society, culture, law enforcement? How did that really like resonate and change the way that hip hop would then, operate for the next 30 years?
Because hold on, and I just want to add on to that question. As you saying that, what was the vibe with the police in Boston?
Oh, good point. Yeah.
1988, 87, 89, when Fuck the Police was dropping, so we could just put that full circle. You know what I mean? What was it like with the young black men out there,
Okay, so to preface everything, right?
Yes.
When NWA first broke out, talking NWA in the Posse era, right? This is 1987 going into 1988. We're getting those tapes. We're getting the McCullough tapes from Ruthless. We're finding those in the mom and pop stores in Boston, Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, Jamaica Plain, what have you. Everywhere, like everywhere in the hood, right? So we're hearing that tape. That tape didn't have really national distribution, but we had that tape. So when people talk about NWA blew up then, no, 87, 88 is when we first heard NWA. Now, the other part of it is that at the same time NWA is doing that, independently, you have Luke Skywalker Records in Miami doing outlandish shit. Outlandish shit. All right? In 87, 88, 89. So we're getting those tapes too in our mom and pop stores, places like Skippy White's, places like Mattapan Music, places like Nubian Ocean. We're getting all that. Now, the issue with the police, Boston, Black and Latino residents in Boston have always had a contentious relationship with the fucking Boston police force. Always. So over here, it was always fuck the police, even though we didn't have a song to say it. But it was, if you ever heard of Almighty RSO, Almighty RSO pretty much used to be like, yo, man, fuck these cops. And also the neighborhood rap group, which were in league with Almighty RSO, and the Legion of Doom was the whole crew was a group called TDS Mob. Ted Treacherous, Devastating Supreme, but we used to call them the drug selling mob. So it was like they were the people that got wearing Bruins gear popular in the hood. Like at the time, a lot of people didn't have cable, so we had this thing called WSBK TV 38. So if the Bruins played a game, everybody's watching the Bruins because what the fuck else you gonna watch? It's one of the channels that come in clear, right? But the idea that people in the hood are wearing hockey gear, when they don't go to the games. They might watch them on TV, but they're not going to Boston Garden to watch the games, right? It gives you an idea how Boston moved together, right? So the Boston Police Department was super corrupt, super racist. Still is. But back then it was worse, right? Worse to the point where you could be in the city and say that these cops are fucked up, these cops are crooked, and no one will believe you. Moreover, to the point, there's a documentary right now on Netflix called Trial 4 that documents all of this era of Boston, late 80s, early 90s going forward, but how fucking corrupt the police force are. And that one, it talks about area E5. I'm in D4. D4 and E5 were the two most crooked, the ones that are entrenched in the city, fucking with the blacks and Latinos the most, right? So Boston idea was always like, yo, fuck the police. Matter of fact, Mo Mighty RSO later does a song called One in the Chamber that talks about snitching. Snitching is in being part of a continuing criminal enterprise and telling and getting people locked up and fucking up the whole hood, and the fucking police because of police brutality. Moreover, go back to 87, 88, when NWA puts out Fuck the Police, or going into 89 puts out Fuck the Police, because Fuck the Police is one of the songs leading into what eventually would be the album that we know as Compton, Straight Outta Compton.
Straight Outta Compton, yeah.
Because they put out singles first. And those singles blew up before the album officially came out. People don't realize that. They keep tying in the album dropping summer 88. No, summer 88 is when the fucking singles for the album started dropping. Because you gotta remember, Q went back to school. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Design school or some shit, right?
They had to get him back. They had to convince him to join again. But at the same time, Eazy-E's album's out. He's written Eazy-E's album.
Easy does it come out first.
Well, hold up. So Eazy-E's does it drop first?
Yes.
Eazy-E's album dropped around Thanksgiving 88, right? So, and then the other part that's crazy is that DOC's album had dropped. That's
before NWA's joint?
Yeah. All these, NWA's album didn't drop until like January, February 89.
Okay. I always thought it dropped in 88 for some reason.
No. Because these singles were so big on the underground, and these albums were so big, and you would watch video shows, and Ruthless was everywhere. Yeah. And you gotta remember too that at the same time, Ruthless had signed and axed to other labels. So they had JJ Fad signed to another label. Right? So Ruthless quite literally was all over the charts before NWA even came out. The reason NWA's album Straight Outta Compton blew up is because Ruthless was everywhere. It was so hard to get on the radio back then. And it was to the point where people would get requests so much that people would be like, fuck it, we're gonna edit the song ourselves and play it on the radio. But why I'm saying this is because when Fuck the Police came out, there was a megaton bomb dropped, right? And it was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. You can do that? And the thing about Fuck the Police is that it blew up without radio play, without real support. And back then, this is still during the era where rap didn't get played while the sun was up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Rap got
tell
played
people that all the time,
at night. And this is still in the era where rap sections were at the back of the store. Okay? And to think about that, this is why people say that Fuck the Police was such a turning the corner moment, right? Because Fuck the Police was probably the most popular song that didn't get any kind of airplay. But if you ask anybody on the street, I don't care what part of the country they're in, yo, what's that? Fuck the police.
Yeah.
Fuck the police. And the importance of NWA Straight Outta Compton when it dropped in early 89 is that it was the song that made New York finally admit that there was incredible rap being made outside of the East Coast, outside of the tri-state area.
Come on, man.
And being from Boston, it was great for me to see because New York didn't even fucking acknowledge us, and we were 220 miles away. Right?
That's crazy.
So that was a monumental moment when Fuck the Police dropped, because think about it. It drops like summer 88, and it's still the shit in summer 89. And it's still a song people, like at the concert, people are waiting for them to play Fuck the Police. And the concert's packed, all right?
Yeah.
Think about that. The West Coast changed everything to the point where nobody knew what the fuck or where the fuck Compton was. In a year, a calendar year after Straight Outta Compton dropped, how many groups were from Compton with major deals, and how many of them were dope? That's the important part.
Yeah.
How many of them were dope?
Yeah, not a lot of dope ones, but a lot of them had deals. I mean, like, you know, Compton's most wanted, of course, MC8, you know what I mean? But it was like a lot of like just little carbon copy motherfuckers that was trash getting deals, you know what I'm saying? And to double back what you were saying about NWA, I think DOC, man, he doesn't get enough credit for his for his pen game and his influence on NWA, man. He's like, he doesn't get his flowers, man. Without him, that shit doesn't flow. Like, that's the Chronic and Snoop's first album isn't crazy without DOC.
DOC is the guy who kind of taught Snoop how to write.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Rhymes, and helped him craft his shit. Like, everybody had help, man. Fucking when Cypress Hill came into the game, you had Sean B and Brett B of 783, you know, helped them out how to figure shit out. Everybody has somebody to guide them and help them along the way, man, early on. Because a lot of people are under the impression that everybody comes into this shit fully formed, man, and that's not a fact. You know, everybody had to have somebody guide them along the way. Sometimes that motherfucker don't need the you know, the extra wheels on the bike anymore, and they don't need you to run behind them holding the seat. But, you know, at some point, somebody had to put you on to help you out, you know. But that's what it is. But yes, the West Coast changed everything in rap, especially going 89, 90 going forward.
So now that the East Coast kind of knows that this wave is coming, right? Like, I'm pretty sure all the labels knew that there was something on the horizon,
and the resentment started.
Oh, absolutely. Hence the connection. But what is so now that they kind of see this uprising, like Joe was saying, so like obviously the gangster rap was starting to become the clear message of what was coming in the next 5 to 7 years of domination pre-Death Row. But like you're saying, like King T, Compton's Most Wanted. Who else was like really deep into the hardcore before Dre and Snoop? I mean, obviously covered the soundtrack that came out. So there was like this wave that was coming that was starting to pick up radio rotation. And then like some of the heavy hitters, like in LO, right? What was it? 14 Shots to the Dome. Like that doesn't really, you know, that kind of gets panned out. That some of their kings
or whatever, right?
Yeah, but it's like my point is like the kings of the East Coast were starting to like pan out, and this new sound and these younger voices are starting to, you know, collapse on what's happening on the East, and so it becomes more of a favorable return for the West. But like you said, like now it becomes like this bitter rivalry of like these new guys are coming in and taking over.
I mean, think about it, right? Above the Law comes out, and Above the Law,
there you go,
does not get credit for like their role in the popularization of the sound that we now call G-Funk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I remember the first time I saw somebody with an Above the Law cassette. I was at Boston Latin School. It was my boy Vern Quaishi. If you're listening to this, what up? And he holds Above the Law, Living Like Hustlers on cassette. He's like, you know why he bought it? Because they kept playing the fucking song Ballin' on WRBB in Boston. So they kept playing Ballin'. He's like, I keep hearing this goddamn song, so I just had to buy the tape. So like that's how it worked, right? And like also, like I was talking to somebody else about someone was asking me, like, why do you know so much about Dallas hip hop? And I was just like, well, back on college radio, they used to always play this song by OG Style. I know how to play him. I know how to catch him slipping. And it was like, we were like, fuck it, we just bought the tape. And if you would go back and look at like sales reports from the late 80s, early 90s, you would find tapes from all over the place selling in Boston for that reason. But the thing is that joint was so big that it made people like, yo, what else do they have? What else do they have? So anytime something new came out from that region, people were on it immediately. But like the entire sound, the West Coast sound, captivated so many people on the East Coast because it was something new. It was something like vibrant. They were saying some shit that we couldn't hear regularly. They had a different perspective that we couldn't get. Because life is different everywhere. Everybody experiences different shit. That's why in Boston also, another super popular label was Rap A Lot. Because
okay,
cats talking about life in the 3rd ward, the 5th ward, you know what I'm saying? And then you got, and at the time, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Cash Money was selling independently, right? And they were, they had groups like fucking UNLV, right?
yeah.
You had Gregory D and Manny Fresh, right? And this is the late 80s. So if you found music from anywhere that was different from yours and it had a different expression and the beat sounded different, you were into it. And this is kind of what happened with West Coast rap, because it was intriguing when you listened to it. And the experience, the voice, the sound, like everything, man. When you hear Low Profile,
come on, talk to him.
You're like,
Dub C.
Yeah, you hear Low Profile, you're like, yo, pay your dues. You're like, yo, what is this? This shit is crazy. Then I'll never forget the first time I heard WC in the Mad Circle. You know, like I was like, yo, what am I listening to right now? It's being sweated for my dress code. Like,
yeah, man. I'm telling you,
shit was like, what are they talking about? What the fuck are they talking about?
When West Up first dropped from Dub C and Mad Circle, I ain't gonna lie, I was in a juvenile hall camp, man. And there was like a younger coach in there, like staff in there named Coach Robinson. He was a cool cat. He was a hooper. He would take us hoop sometime. He was like, yo, Johaz, man, I know you like rap, man. I want to play this song for you, right? And he drops front, back, side to side, man. Everybody, the whole dorm, it almost started a riot, man. Motherfuckers, you know what I'm saying? Like, people, if you're not from the West Coast, you're not gonna really understand Dub C's influence, man. Dub C is heavy in the West Coast, heavy.
Yeah, but like when you're a kid, like rarely you get like a Mixmaster Spade record, and that guy should get so much more credit because he started a lot of shit. He has a lot of sons, right, in the game. But like, you rarely got a Mixmaster Spade record, but like Electro Hop was like really the thing that we got the most of. So the first Ice-T records we got were Electro Hop. The first King T records we got. The first time I heard of Kid Frost, you know, like, you know, those are Electro Hop records, right? And this is largely because Boston was really big in electro, right? But we called it Boston Funk, but everybody else calls it electro. So when it gets to the West Coast and like everybody's popping and locking to that shit. Also, another thing that a lot of people don't know, the West Coast version of Wild Style, aka Wild Style / Style Wars, is a documentary called Breakin and Entering. That documentary was directed by a dude from Roxbury, directed and written by a dude from Roxbury, Boston, named Topper Carew, who went on to do a whole bunch of amazing films.
Yeah, he did Martin, right? He did Martin.
Yeah, he also did Martin. He did DC Cab, did a whole bunch of shit.
Wow, okay.
But he's also a musician, right? But he was the guy who made Breakin and Entering. And Breakin and Entering is important because unfortunately, you don't get Breakin and Breakin 2 without Breakin and Entering. Because Breakin and Entering, everybody in that movie got cast from that documentary. I'm talking about Shabba-Doo. I'm talking about Michael Boogaloo Shrimp Chambers, who everybody now knows.
You gotta send me that shit, bro.
Who now knows as Turbo. You know, like Ice-T ends up in that movie from popping and locking and rapping and Breaking and Entering. And then like all the other people, like the little kids and shit, like everybody was in that movie if you go back and look at it. So there was this real cross-pollination, right, between Boston and California. But the thing is that when it started happening in New York, when that sound started infecting New York and the tri-state area, that's when the pushback began, because people started slowly realizing we're not heads and shoulders above everybody. You know what I'm saying? And then when we get to the underground era, that's when it really hit. That's when the pushback really started. Because it's like, y'all can have this gangster shit. Y'all can have this hardcore shit. That's cool. After Colors came out, all right, we ain't gonna fuck with you on that. But when motherfuckers started technically and lyrically rapping and making it clear that their pin game was as good and better than cats on the East Coast, and y'all gonna have to step y'all shit up, that's when the pushback began. That's when the resentment started.
Because I always like even to this day, there's always some niggas from the East Coast try to play you with the, oh, y'all be having Jerry curl shit. So I think like a lot of people, when we were trying to move past, like, yo, we're deeper than just perms and Jerry curls and guns, man. We got bar game, we got spit game. It's just like y'all, you know what I mean? Like, because I don't know about in Boston, but was at a time was cats just thinking like, oh man, West Coast is this bunch of niggas out here banging and having Jerry. So what was the thought process, man? You know what I mean? Because I run into a lot of people that always be like, yo, man, like they just try to play us like that's all that's out here is just, and you know, this is 2021 and niggas still try to be like, yo, y'all still got Jerry curls. I'm like, come on, man. You know?
So the beauty of being from Boston is that it's a transitional city, right?
Okay.
So we have people coming from college, right? You spend your 3 to 5 years here and you might leave. But what Boston also is famous for, and you can ask anybody from the tri-state area or everywhere else, if you have family in Boston, for some odd reason, people felt that we're gonna send you to Boston. You know, if you get in trouble, we're gonna send you to Boston. There's a famous lyric in Same Sex No Freaks. Killing is your everyday plan, so you out to New York and you onto Boston, right? And
Yeah.
you were like, why you send them niggas here? Like, it ain't gonna be better. It ain't gonna be better.
Yeah.
Like, you think it's going like they're gonna escape trouble here? You get in more trouble here, right?
What kind of Prince Harry, Meghan Markle shit is that? Like, we're gonna leave racism in the UK and go to America.
Yeah, like what?
Yo. This nigga
serious?
Dark Adams is the illest. He has the illest knowledge. Keep going, man. Keep going. Keep going.
So what happened is I grew up with a lot of kids that lived originally in LA or South Central or nearby areas. And they were either used to be a Blood, used to be a Crip. Okay. My boy Gerard Rock was a Crip. He moved to Boston, ended up playing for West Roxbury High, hanging out with us. Then we had a boy named Omari, rest in peace, who was sent from California, and he come hanging out with us. He becomes an MC, and he one day was setting up mics, and Omari looks at us like, "Yo, dog, let me tell you something. Last year around this time, I was on the block holding heat, staring at motherfuckers and calling them busters, and they felt bad, and we all started laughing because buster didn't mean shit in Boston, but buster, you say that shit there, it's like an insult, like Herb." A punk here, right? So we laugh, but the thing is that we had so many kids come from the West Coast that were affiliated that we understood. They would tell us stories, and those stories led me to buy a book called Monster by a man named Cody Scott, Senyika Sakura. And this book was put on to me by my friends from the West Coast, specifically LA, talking about their experiences with like gangbanging. But the thing is that both these dudes could rhyme. And they had like, for some odd reason, they had vocabulary that was insane. And I didn't understand this until I went to Harvard, right? So I don't know if y'all familiar with Tep Poe. So Tep Poe from St. Louis. I went hang out with Tep Poe. I used to always go down to Harvard and hang out with Tep Poe in his office, right? And one day he's kicking it with a dude he used to hang out with, Souls of Mischief and Hyro. And I asked him, I was like, yo, what was it about the West Coast MCs where they had this insane vocabulary and some of them used to pronounce every single word when they rap? Like, what was that about? He was like, oh, and how come y'all could do a shit so fast? And he straight up told me, he was like, one thing we used to do fucking around as kids is we used to get homework. And we used to get all these words. So what we would do was, in order to memorize them or learn them, we would do this thing where we would say them really fast. And we would pronounce every single syllable. And then when we started rapping our first tapes and shit, we would do that as a joke sometimes and rap like that, pronouncing every single syllable and saying all these words. And then it became part of our style. When cats start chopping shit up and they started flowing, coming from the Good Life Cafe and then Project Blow. So that became part of like our style. So it didn't matter how gangster, how thug you were, how hard you were, or if you were a fucking bookworm. You all had that background.
Yeah, you had to. You had to. Like people that, I mean, because no matter what, rhyming, you have to be articulate with words. You know what I'm saying? So it was like in ciphers with us, if you slurred your words, if you said shit, that was already a demerit. Like, oh, this nigga can't even pronounce shit. You know what I mean? That's how our battles was. Like, oh, he don't even know how to say. You know what I mean? It's just a different shit. You know what I mean? It's just different, man. Wordplay is more important, and styling is more important, almost more important than punchlines sometimes. You know, in West Coast ciphers. You know what I mean? It's really just like, you see how that combination, we tripping off that more than like, you snapped his neck, you know what I mean? Which is dope too, but that's just the background, you know?
Yeah. So when that started happening, we were like, oh shit. So we had a completely different mindset. We didn't have it that, oh, it's only colors, because we were getting firsthand information all the time. Every year was a new crop of kids being sent from somewhere else. We have kids from Detroit. We had kids from like New Orleans. We had kids from everywhere. And when they came, what did they bring? They brought their music with them. So we were getting shit like Esham, booming words from hell while we're playing basketball from the kids from Detroit. Or when the kids went to go hustle in Detroit and they came back. Or when kids went to Seattle, they come back with like some new tapes or some shit from off these cats off Nasty Mix called Criminal Nation, and with a song called Criminally Insane. I'm saying the song called Insane. And it's like, yo, this shit is crazy. Like, these beats are nuts. But then they come back, it's like, yo, everybody in Seattle got cornrows. It's crazy. It's always raining. But like, yeah. So like, the beauty of living in Boston is that we experience everything. Like, cats would be there for 3, 4, 5 years and then go home. You know what I'm saying? But like, I run into people on Twitter all the time, and they're like, I spent these years in Boston. I spent these years in Boston. I spent these years in Boston. And I'm like, damn, because everybody had their little Boston stint. But it's crazy that even with all that time, man, Boston, nobody has any fucking idea what Boston is really like, because the story of inner city Boston is never told. But our experience is crazy because everybody ended up here. It was nuts.
Because I was going to say, to be honest,
themselves.
I don't know about Gabe, but my perception of Boston has always been like, it's a bunch of just racist white folks out there. Like, you don't really associate Black people with Boston. But as I got older, I start seeing they have a rich history of Blackness out there. You know what I mean? But like, for me growing up, that's why we never, because we like, ourselves, it's nothing but white boys. Even though you know what I mean? Like, you know, even though, you know, I respect their game and shit, that was just our shit. Like, oh, them niggas, they don't even, it's all white boys. How you fucking with that? But talking to you, and like, and just being out there, you see, oh man, it's a bunch, it's Black out there. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you, Puerto Rican and Black or what?
So I'm half Honduran, half Black. My father's from Central America. So
word. Okay.
It's funny because Hondurans, they like to call them the closet Latino. You never know if people would say original recipe Black. You never know. So you could be saying some foul shit, and it's like, but also we could be chilling in the cut and someone say some shit in Spanish and we know what you're saying. So it's the funniest shit in the world, man. It's like, and plus I'm a middle child and I'm whole brain. So it's like I'm an undercover agent all the time. It's fucking hilarious. This is hilarious, man. But yeah, but definitely the West Coast experience is we got it. We didn't think it was one-sided, because the thing too, like growing up in Boston, it's so like segregation is nuts. But Boston is split up into so many different small neighborhoods. It's so segmented that you learn that over there, depending on where you live in this one gang territory surrounded by other gang territories, and you don't really have a choice no matter whether or not you're going to be a part of a gang, but you do have a choice if you're going to participate in your level of participation. But even if you're not fully a participant, if you're in that area and grew up there, you're kind of in the gang too. So you don't get this idea that just because you're in a gang, you can't know or can't be proficient in X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of thing we got too. So we understood that aspect of it, whereas other people were just like, oh, all you know is Jerry Curls and blood, cuz, you know. So it's like, because we got hit with that stereotypical shit too. So we involved with banana and tailpipe. So that's kind of how it worked.
Yeah. I mean, we said that we picked up the same thing here in Chicago. Like, everyone became a Mark Ass or Buster, you know. So we were definitely adopting the flow and the slang from the films, because that was our only connection that we had, was the film and what we were being presented and served as what we thought was the West Coast and hip hop culture here.
So moreover than that, right? Let's think about this, and this bugs me out more than anything. when Master Ace Incorporated put out the album Slaughterhouse, they had a song called Slaughterhouse, which was made to parody that kind of rap, right?
But man, that's why I didn't like that album at first, man.
But here's the thing. What happened is they made that song Slaughterhouse to parody West Coast rap, MC Negro and Ignorant MC, right? But here's what happened. Motherfuckers would play that song.
Because the beat was slapping.
Because the beat was slapping, right? And it kind of backfired because their next album, Sitting on Chrome, was West Coast inspired because they put out a remix for Jeep Ass Nigga called Sitting on Chrome that blew up. So their next album was a love letter to the West Coast influence in rap, and it was a whole story. So it just goes to show you that, like, even though you can try to say, man, this shit is whatever, let me tell you something. There was so many motherfuckers talking shit about Pyru Love on Crips and Bloods, and they had that shit recorded, and they had the video recorded on Rap City. And if you ask them to do the whole verse, they could do the whole song.
That song was fire as fuck. Yeah.
CK bumming on wax. Now I'm bombing your girl. Like, shut the fuck up, man.
Come on, man.
Pyro Love was fucking amazing.
Yo, you went there with that. Yeah.
On Rosecrans. Like, these dudes are saying I think she's not alive anymore, but that chick, she started the song with that whole verse.
Yeah, Bloody Mary.
That shit. Everybody
knew the video bumped in.
Yeah.
Yo, I just maybe 10, 15 years ago found out it was a girl, because I always thought it was a motherfucking dude. You know what I'm saying?
When the video came out that we knew.
Yeah, that was it, yo. I mean, because at first her voice, she had the illest verse too. She died in a motorcycle crash.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's crazy too, right? Because we were getting tapes like NOT. So he says NOTS, non-rap is out of the shelter, right?
Yeah.
It was NOTS, niggas on the street, and they had an album True Blue, and then True Blue 2 was YOLO. So the term YOLO came from them, a bunch of Crips. Yes. And so when Drake came out with YOLO, I was like, y'all know that shit. And that was the term since 92, 93, right? Like, he didn't create that shit. So it's crazy because when I think about all the West Coast influence, to the point where when we were young, me and my younger brother, I'm talking 90, 91, 92, 93, our favorite MCs were pretty much from the West Coast because they were the ones pushing it. And our favorite dudes from the East were the ones that were like highly influenced by them. I have a book right behind me. I'm going to show it to you. It's Talib Kweli's book.
I just got it. Yeah, I just got it.
There's chapters in here where he talks about, he would go back and forth with his boy about, he was such a big fan of Freestyle Fellowship, especially Micah 9. And then Micah 9 shows up at his doorstep. His boy brings him, Omari. And he's just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, mouth the gate. Yeah. And that's kind of how we felt about a lot of these cats. Like, if you would have asked me back then who were my favorites, I would have been like Micah 9, AC Alone, Dell. I would have said all of fucking Casual. I would have said all of Souls of Mischief. Razcast. Razcast's opening verse on Come With It. It was the hip hop quotable in the source. And I knew it word for word before they even printed the fucking lyrics. Because I was like, yo, what did I just hear? Like, and then, so also when I was, 25 years ago, I was in college in Morgan State. And I was going through it. I was broke. I was by myself. And I remember one of the things that got me through it was I had somebody's leftover CD single of Miami Life. And So on Earth, I think, was the other side. And I would play that shit to death because of the way he flowed on it. And Razcast was flowing on shit like AZ. I'm launching missiles and scuds and rockets and tubs. It's hot, feel more heat than a Mai Tai. I think it's despite high. Like he would just fit all these syllables, and life's a beach, and I'm forever be wearing my bathing suit. And then you got shit like E-Rule, Listen Up, and Synopsis, right?
Oh, come on.
When you think about
check it, E-Rule's about to wreck it.
Yeah. So you think about it, like these are clearly West Coast lyricists. The influence, the flow, the cadence, the way they say the lyrics, the slang, everything, the laid back delivery, all that shit is distinctly, we had it on the East Coast, but it's distinctly West Coast. And that changes everything, man. So like the West Coast influence on MCs on the East Coast or just listeners on the East Coast is unfucking deniable. Anybody who was listening to rap, especially underground rap, major label, which was still underground rap, I don't care what you say, especially from the late 80s on to the mid 90s. 96 is like the end, the turn. But like, man, it's impossible to not say that you were influenced or not say that both coasts were pushing each other. And I never really bought into like the East Coast, West Coast war or battle that was happening, because to me, it was like watching your fucking cousins fight, man. Like, I hated it. The best equivalent I could come up to you with is that the East Coast, West Coast beef was the worst thing for me as a MC, lyricist, rap fan, fanatic, what have you. Since in the East Coast, New England, there was a beef between Weathermen and Demigods. These two rap teams. That shit was the worst stretch of time for all of us because it was like watching your family fight. And I hated that shit. And the crazy thing is that it all started from one incident from something that was aired on MTV. If you don't know the exact place where it started is it was either an episode where it was GJ Quick and he had Second to None with him, or it was Second to None's episode on Yo MTV Raps. It was the weekend episode with Fat Five Freddy. Fat Five Freddy asked them to freestyle. And they say they don't do that shit. And then the uproar began. Oh, these motherfuckers don't freestyle. It's not real hip hop. They don't freestyle. And I was like, wait a minute. Are y'all aware that motherfuckers, some of the best freestylers on the planet? I'm talking off the top. And this is also another thing that happened too. There was always a beef about what freestyling meant, because the fact of the matter is that it used to mean something different. If you go back and listen to old 1985, 84, 86 tapes of LL Cool J, when he's doing shows, he says, hey, yo, want me to kick a freestyle? And he raps for like 50 bars. But what freestyle meant to him is a rhyme written not in the format of a song, just loose bars. So on East Coast, we thought that freestyle just meant rappity rap, rappity rap, rap. And people didn't count bars back then. I want to make this point. People didn't count bars back then. You know who made us all count bars? And after I had this conversation too, Dante Ross kind of pointed this out to me, but I told Dante this, and Dante gave me a counter thing. I said that I didn't know that you were supposed to count bars, and I didn't know there was a format until the person who broke it down for me without breaking it down for me was a motherfucker named Marvin Young, who was on a label called Delicious Vinyl. Marvin Young, aka Young MC, he wrote this rap called I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but Wild Thing. then he wrote another song called Bust a Move. Then he turned around and wrote another song called Funky Cold Medina. And he used this format: 16-bar verse, hook, 16-bar verse, hook, 16-bar verse, hook.
Wow.
And those three songs all became three of the biggest rap hits out the gate, right? And it ended up opening the door for people to realize, oh shit, there's a formula to this shit. And also, Young MC ended up leaving after he got his Grammy, but he ended up leaving and selling millions of records and almost hitting #1 on the Billboard charts several times using this formula. And it wasn't until then I realized that, oh shit, you have to stop rapping at some point. And people still weren't counting bars. I didn't know what bars were, but it's the same conversation Pharoah Monch said that he was told when he was talking to Dave Funkin' Klein. And Dave Funkin' Klein told him when they signed to Hollywood Basic, you can't fucking rap forever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, you have to stop at some point. Releasing hypnotical gases. That's them watered down. Think about that, right? But this is highly influenced by the West Coast MCing, right? Because when you listen to DOC on Nobody Does It Better,
that's Doc T from Texas, but he's running around and writing for cats from Compton. You know what I'm saying? He's writing for East at the time too, along with Cube, and along with like eventually what ends up happening is that you have to have Ren really step it up and have to write more bars for people after Cube leaves, right? Yeah. But that results in Niggas for Life. Think about that.
Right? That album's crazy. Yeah.
Think about that.
Crazy. Yeah.
Cube made his album, and also like the other cross-pollination point is the big change is when Ice Cube leaves, right? Ice Cube leaves NWA and goes to the East Coast, goes to Long Island, and starts hanging out with the Bomb Squad. But when he's with the Bomb Squad, who's around him? Like, you gotta think, he comes with Sir Jinx, right? And everybody else, but he's around a young leaders of the new school.
Wow.
Like, they were around for all this, right? So think about this. The guys and young black teenagers were around during Cube sessions for America's Most Wanted, right? So he makes America's Most Wanted with a lot of beats that were made for the first album that was supposed to be by Son of Berserk.
Wow.
Right? The first version of the Son of Berserk album, a lot of those beats were made for them. Cube was like, yoink, and ends up rapping on them, right? Yeah, but it's crazy because the version of No Self-Control in the band's album with Son of Berserk still dope, right? But think about how crazy it would have been if they rapped over the beats that Cube got. Now, here's what's nuttier. Cube decides not to work with the Bomb Squad anymore when he makes Kill It Will. He makes Kill It Will himself. Then he forms his production team, the Boogeyman, and then he makes an even bigger album the next time, a classic, which is, Death Certificate.
Yes. Woo!
So he took all the shit he learned from the Bomb Squad and then put a West Coast spin on it, and then fucking it started a whole new wave of West Coast rap on this side, right? But here's the thing. When you listen to America's Most Wanted, that is a West Coast album, even though it has East Coast production.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the shit Cube talks about, his delivery, everything. You don't listen to that album and think, this is Cube trying to sound like he's from the East Coast.
Right.
Nah. So that gives you an idea of the power of West Coast rap. And also, I think another point that people don't talk about enough is when you had Kool G Rap work with Sir Jinx on Still Wanted Dead or Alive, or his last album with DJ Polo.
Was that the Ill Street Blues album?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no. That's before that. That is the Ill Street Blues album. I'm thinking the Streets of New York album is the album before that. So that's the Ill Street Blues album. That's the album with Train Robbery, number 1 with a bullet, 2 in the motherfucking head. That's that album. The album with Operation CB. Think about when you have a West Coast artist, right? Work with an East Coast artist, and about that influence. Detroit working with Def Jeff and everybody else. Boston's Born Gangsters album, right? Like, think about that album. It didn't go gold. It missed going gold, but that's a classic album. And that album came out on the tails of like, this is when Onyx is big. You know what I'm saying? And just the West Coast influence, because Def Jam had opened up a Def Jam West office at that time. The influence of West Coast rap in the 90s is undeniable, man. But the thing is that it was from multiple levels. It wasn't just one thing. It was like you could try to pigeonhole it and say, this is the stereotypical sound of West Coast rap. But then motherfuckers are turning around and nodding their heads to fucking Mr. Dabalina. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
And also, dog, I know you don't like this song, but this song was dear to my heart because you used to come on at night.
You're not gonna talk about Paperboy's Diddy, are you?
Diddy, nigga, you don't like it, but for me,
hated Diddy. And let me tell you why I hated Diddy. Let me tell you why I hated Diddy. At the time Diddy came out, let me tell you why I hated Diddy too. At the time it came out, so Diddy first comes out, right? It gets played on the college radio in Boston. Then he starts rapping, and the dude stops it. He stops it, and he goes, this shit is trash. We're never playing this trash again. I'm like, yeah, fuck that song. I go to school. I'm going to the school called Boston English High, right? Boston English High in Jamaica Plain. It was called Boston Spanish High as a joke because like there were so many Latinos there, right? So so I go to English, and one of my best friends who plays on the baseball team, my boy Will Lugo. He's playing his song in his Walkman, and he's nodding his head. I'm like, yo, Will, what you playing? He takes out the tape and shows it to me, and I'm like, oh shit. I look, and it's Paperboy Diddy. I'm like, you like this shit? He's like, yo, this shit is catchy as hell. I was like, I fucking hate this song. I hand it back to him. And then who walks through the door? But like one of my friends, this girl walks through the door, right? And she's singing Diddy. And I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I like that song. It's catchy. Will's like, I got the single. And so she's like, oh, can I hear it too? So they sharing headphones, listening to Diddy in the corner. I'm pissed off, right? And then like, I'm like, fuck this. I leave the room because we used to hang out in different rooms at lunchtime. And I leave and I hear, I'm like, what the fuck? These kids walking down the hall playing Diddy on a fucking speaker. And I'm just like, yo, they're trying to drive me crazy. And at the time, this is when the song blew up. Like I'm talking, if you remember when Jay Don't Walk Away came out, how that shit, you heard that shit everywhere. That's how Diddy was when it first came out. And then later it was like that with like Gangsta Bitch. Like it was the song you heard everywhere without trying. So that's why I fucking hated Diddy. And I was like, he can't rap for shit. And then that video was on BET forever.
Man, I don't know how that song blew up. It just blew up, bros, on the radio 24/7, man. Do the Diddy if you want to, because then I can see if I want to. You know about that shit, Gabe?
I heard it.
Little kids loved it. Little kids loved it too. That's the thing that made it work. Yeah. Because if you're
in the car,
across,
when the kids and the soccer moms fall in love with it.
My mom used to be pumping that. We'd be like, woo.
Yeah, yo, that shit used to get requested on the radio so much that they just played it every hour on the hour. So people left them alone. We're gonna play Diddy at 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
I thought it was the West Coast thing, so that shit blew up hard. Big up Paperboy.
No, it blew up everywhere, unfortunately.
Yeah. I wanted to say before we cut out, I wanted to get into kind of like after the dust had settled with the so quote unquote East Coast West Coast rivalry. We started to see a lot more collaboration. That was kind of like a goodwill, like, okay, let's all work together, guys, for the better good. But it's worth noting that before shit really popped off, on the MC8 We Come Strap album, Redman is featured with MC8 and Spice One. And so it was kind of like the West, like MC8 and some of the West Coast artists were already fucking with the East Coast and trying to bridge that divide. But then once everything kind of like started to get a little bit out of hand, and then after the fallout, then it was like, okay, now it's time for us to collaborate and do more collaborations. Is there anything from that point, from some of those forced collaborations that really stand out to you as really good music that came out of that point?
I mean, yeah, but here's the thing that we got to keep in mind, right? Just like with anything else, with sports, with art, anything, even though we are people that contribute and make the art, we're still fans.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
So the fact of the matter is that even when all this shit is going down, motherfuckers are fans of each other's music. Like, I can't, you could say all the shit you want about the West Coast, but if I throw on fucking Jesus Make the World Go Round, you ain't gonna not bob your head. You know what I'm saying?
On,
like,
man,
get the fuck out of here.
Geez,
I can't tell you how many times I went into somebody's house and I saw a fucking Spice One tape sitting there like, wait, hold on, what? Hold on, what? No, my best friend Zach grew up in Connecticut and he moved to Boston. Do you know what his two favorite rappers were? This dude named Too Short from Oakland, California, and this other dude named DMG, Detrimental Gangster.
Oh, wow. I don't even know that nigga.
Yeah. So, and he was, and I was just like, wait, what? And his favorite group of all time was the Ghetto Boys. And he was born in Connecticut, moved to Boston at a young age. So to give you an idea how crazy it was, right? So cats were fans of each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't tell you how many times I was just sitting in class and then a motherfucker would be like, I'm gonna get hard if you live in Cali, dog.
Oh man.
Like, you know, and like everybody would do Cocaine's verse. It never rained in Southern California.
Wow.
That's
What they told me.
You know?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Uncle Sam's Curse is my shit. Like
Yeah.
that album is
Yeah.
super underrated. Yeah.
The first
on,
time
man.
I ever heard Be Legit, I mean not Be Legit, but E40, he had an album, a tape called Federal, and someone brought it to school with them in Boston, and that's the first time I ever heard them. But the first video of them theirs I ever saw was the click I'm Tired of Getting Stepped On. And
Ooh,
they
that's
played it
a
once
slap.
on Rap City. I'm tired of getting stepped on. I'm tired of getting stepped on. I'm tired of getting. And there's a dance they do in the video. They do this shit and they stick their arms out. So one day I was fucking around in school in the hallway, and I go, I'm tired of getting stepped on. And my boy goes, chicka, chicka, chicka. And we start doing the dance down the stairs. Tired again. So to give you an idea of like the influence, everybody was fans of everybody else's. And if you're an MC, it's impossible not to be. So when it came time to people to do those collaborations, it seemed a lot of times it seemed forced, but a lot of these people fucking hanging out with each other already. If you watch the video, Wu-Tang's video for Can It All Be So Simple?
Yeah.
There's a part where MC8 is sitting in a car.
Right.
And people are coming up to the car and they're tapping on the window and they're saying what up to him. What's happening is MC8 came to New York to hang out with Wu. And they told everybody, yo, MC8's coming down. And they're such fans of Wu and Compton's Most Wanted in that area of New York that motherfuckers were bringing him weed and saying what up is tribute.
Right.
Wow.
All right, to give you an idea of how big fans they were. And I can't tell you, when I was a kid, if you would have said, yo, Casual's over there, kids would be like, what? Motherfuckers would have rushed over there. You know what I'm saying? If you would have said that, hey, I heard Razkaz is in town, motherfuckers would have dropped what they were doing and fucking sprinted over there. If you would have, like when I was a kid, let's see, who were the up and coming women from the West Coast? You had Recipe MC Trouble.
Yeah.
MC Trouble. You had Nefertiti.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nefertiti, Miss of Mother Nature.
Oh yeah,
my goodness.
Yo, man, how come she only came with that one album, but her shit was crazy? Did she come with more shit or just that one?
No, because she realized the industry was bullshit. And went into acting. I think one of the stipulations of her record deal too was that they paid for her college tuition. So
so she flipped the game. Okay.
She came out with that album. I think it was Visions of Nefertiti or some
Mr. Mother Nature, Mr. Nature.
Yeah. So that album comes out. It doesn't do really well. So she starts acting. She's actually in the movie Panther.
Yeah. I remember she was somebody. I forgot who she played, but yeah, she did her thing. Big up Nefertiti, man. Yeah.
Yes, but like you had like all these different like cats from the West Coast come up, and like we were fans of theirs. So when it came time for people to do the collaborations and stuff like that, Throw Your Set in the Air remix, which my God is fucking insane, right?
Who? Say it again.
Throw Your Set in the Air remix. It's
yeah.
Think about the So What You Want remix, the DJ Muggs remix for Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
Yo, So What You Want is one of the all-time great joints of the 90s. But when the remix came out, they stopped playing the original version. The original version is insane. They only played the fucking bombs. They only played the blunted remix. They only played the Soul Assassins remix.
Mm-hmm.
So that sound is crazy. And also, you got to keep in mind too that like when DJ Muggs came out, man, he was making kind of better RZA music than RZA in the late 90s, like 96.
Yeah, he was bodying RZA. He was bodying RZA. Especially like that Soul Assassin one that came out like 98.
Yeah, the Soul Assassin album is really great.
So there's a song on Soul Assassins Volume 1 called New York Undercover. Call It a Wild, right? And think of the production Alchemist and them were doing at the time too. Because Alchemist grew up at the foot of, Ralph M. the Mexican and DJ Muggs and all those guys, right?
Yeah.
DJ Lethal, all those cats, right? And then he comes along and he starts doing his own shit with Soul Assassins. Then he goes to New York and starts, hanging out with Mobb Deep and shit and changes that whole shit, right? Yeah. So the influence of the West Coast sound and that cross-pollination has always been a thing, even when it seemed like it was forced. Because we were always fans of that music and we came up on it. And anybody who denies that is straight up fucking lying. Because I gotta tell you,
vice versa.
When Ava DuVernay,
shit.
When Ava DuVernay dropped that documentary about the good life, do you know that the happiest people about it, in my experience, were motherfuckers from over here on the East Coast? Because here's the difference. Y'all grew up with it in kind of close proximity. We had to get magazines or hope somebody had a tape, or we had to do so much work to get that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We won't read rap pages and be like, SIN. How do I get songs from them? You know, how do I get a Medusa tape? Pigeon John. Like,
that's my nigga, cats. Pigeon John. Yeah.
South Central Think Tank. If it wasn't for like Eli, you know, Living Legends, Mystic Journeyman, you know, if it wasn't for the fact that we were on the East Coast and Boston, which is like a backpack rap mecca, and we had all these skaters and everybody else, and we had like undergroundhiphop.com and like, you know, all these places where it was important to get this music, then we wouldn't have been as exposed to the shit. But the fact of the matter is that we were huge connoisseurs of it. Like indie, underground, like West Coast rap. Like there's a reason people came up to me and they were like, why in the fuck how do you know who Sacred Hoop is? Like, you know what I'm saying? And then I go to my crates and I pull out shit like Bomb Hip Hop Records or Q's Hip Hop Shop compilation. And they're like, how do you have this? I was like, you gotta understand. That was the type of shit we grew up with. So Roughneck Jihad, Third Sight, you know, I knew about that. The mixtapes that were being made by like this Cosmonauts album. I knew about that. You know what I'm saying? So we grew up on all that West Coast shit because we had been indoctrinated in it early, like late 80s, early 90s. So when we're in something, we're in it. Yeah. So it's crazy because later on, when the West Coast underground blows up, you know, people are wondering, how come we're selling so many copies of Superstar Kwamala in Boston? Well, how come some of these kids here know Sugar? Hell no. How come I have fucking old Latyrix tapes? You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's what I grew up on. That was the shit I grew up on. So Balcony Beach, Say That, like Lady No Techno. If you played that, let me tell you, Lady No Techno. I can't think of a song where more numbers were exchanged while I was playing than Latyrix's Lady No Techno. I promise you. Probably second would be like fucking Shorty Swing My Way by KP and MP. But to give you an idea,
damn.
I've never seen more numbers exchanged. The more people throw G, more people holler at people than when fucking Lady No Techno comes on. It just opened up everything, man.
That's crazy. Shorty Swing My Fucking Way. That was that fucking, it was like a cheesy video, but it went up kind of. Right?
And it's crazy because the singing girl, she's from Boston. Her name is Susan Hedgepeth. Envy.
Oh
she's from
shit.
Boston. Crazy.
Shorty Swing My Way. You know about that game?
I remember it, yeah. It's amazing. Dark's memory is like crystal clear. I would have never thought about that fucking record.
It was funny because when the video came out, we're like, oh shit, it's Susie.
Yeah, she went up.
Man, well, man, it was so fun for you to join us, Dart, here on the Pick Your Brain podcast. I mean,
we gotta have him all the time, bro. We gotta have you all the time, bro. We gotta have you on all the time, bro. This feels so, it's like the encyclopedia of hip hop for sure, man.
It's amazing how much information you're able to maintain. I need to definitely get my vitamin game back up so I can get my memory capacity back.
Let me tell you, when you can remember whole days of first grade, that shit will drive you crazy. Because there's some shit you're supposed to forget. There's some shit you're not supposed to remember. All right.
If you could wipe your memory of your experience with Brown Sugar, the film, I'm pretty sure you would be able to do that.
I can never. Unfortunately, I can't. Hip Hop Dalmatians reigning king.
The newest sensation. Dart Adams, thanks again. Don't forget to follow Dart on the social medias on Twitter at Dart Adams. He's a great follow. What do you got working on? What do people can expect from you coming up?
Oh shit. I have so many things that I'm doing that I can't discuss because I'm under NDA. I signed NDAs, but I'm there's a book coming out soon called Little Devil in America and Praise of Black Performance. by Hanif Abdurraqib. I was a head researcher and fact checker on that book. It's coming out. There's also another book coming out soon about by Miles Marshall Lewis, and it's about Kendrick Lamar that I contributed to. It's coming out on my 46th birthday, August 17th, 2021. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm working on, different books, different projects that I can't announce yet because, again, they have to be announced by the people. But I signed the deal and the NDAs and everything else. But
I'm gonna announce it. I'm gonna announce it. He's coming out with some new shit. Coming to America Part 3, motherfucker.
I haven't watched it because Dart was like, "Yo, what the fuck?"
Man, I liked it. Y'all niggas.
Coming to America 3. Jesus Christ! If they gave me the opportunity to do that shit, it would be crazy.
I haven't seen it because Dart was like, "Yo, like it's on the back burner. I'll get to it at some point." All right, that's our time. Don't forget to give us a follow on the Twitters, the social medias at Pick Your Brain P, and also on subscribe to us on YouTube and get our follows up. Thank you guys again. We appreciate it. We're out.